Even the CIA, our own CIA, said the world economic crisis is now #1 ahead of terrorism as a national security threat. And that was off of an Andrea Mitchell report on NBC Nightly.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny you mentioned the anarchy side of it, because I'd like to think of myself as a political anarchist.
Yeah.
I say once again a political anarchist because I've not yet been able to cut myself free of the government. So, the deal behind that is that people sit there and use this word anarchy when the proper term probably is the term they're probably looking for is called anomie. Anarchy itself can be in any number of things, including anomie. Anomie is actually what people fear about anarchy is.
Yeah.
Whereas anarchy is any number of things, including just simply no government or no rulers.
Yeah.
But agreed upon rules amongst peoples. So.
Yeah.
Hybrid democracy or something like that.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring up something of a personal news note, is that for any of our disabled listeners out there, listen up and listen closely, because there is now a new movement, according to my sources, and I can't name names. According to my sources, there is a new movement to reinstitutionalize people who are disabled. So if you're on a Medicaid service, work with your provider, but be firm and make sure that they aren't unreasonable. I'm just saying that you will not. If you're going to fight for your freedom, for complete independent living, I'm going to tell you now that it's going to be a fight for survival, more so than anything else. Because you will be of the understanding that unless you are able to go to college, pick up a trade or a job that can contribute, there's a risk that they will come for you.
It's also the case too, they make it really hard to not to start businesses up. You know, you may want to if you're disabled and you can't, like, say, work a 9-to-5 job or a construction job, something like that.
Yeah.
So you may be able to work something like, say, a computer programming job
Right.
at home, like a home personal programming thing, or fix computers. You know, if you're good enough that you can feel the seizures or whatever causes your biggest problems coming on, right?
Right.
But it's really a hard way to get into the markets nowadays because of regulations that they put on for it. And there's I'm fumbling now, but the regulations they put forward supposedly for the benefit of the customer. The customer himself can always sue for fraud against the person or any number of other things if they are actually harmed by anyone's work.
True, and the whole point I wanted to bring up is find a creative way to employ yourself, because inflation will kill your Social Security.
Yeah. Oh, go the avarice route, please. It's simply just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very big generalization. It's better if you just go and look up, say, Wikipedia, and explains what agorism is, and if you have to search any place other than Wikipedia, I'd suggest going to startpage.com, as they won't monitor the sites you are looking for, while and hand it off to other people. And now, as I understand it, the sites they send you to won't monitor you either. So privacy, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a lot of these little blurbs here, and then we're gonna shut it off for early day kind of deal, right?
Correct.
I was once in the military, so when I read this article I'm about to mention here, it struck home, because not so much because I think the numbers are necessarily right, but it does happen, and it usually is by the people they serve with. 1/3 of women in the U.S. military raped. I actually knew one of them myself. She was transferred over from her aircraft carrier to my aircraft carrier because it was easier to remove her than throw out her rapists. Of course, the fact that we were all nukes in this nuclear engine training machinist mates and others was probably half the reason why they don't want to throw them out, right? But it's simply, yeah, they removed the quote-unquote problem child. What happened. And according to the article, it's not only the military has to deal with this kind of thing. It's also private defense contractors. In this case, specifically stating Halliburton's KBR group.
Yeah.
And what happened here is there actually was a case where a woman who works with KBR was drugged and gang raped by other employees of while in Iraq. And when she brought it up, they locked her in a shipping container with only a bed and denied her food, water, and medical treatment. The rape kit that was taken after she regained consciousness was mysteriously lost. And part of this thing issue because it was brought up because freshman Senator Al Franken actually wrote an amendment to be added to the Defense Appropriations Bill that passed that would require defense contractors to allow their employees access to U.S. courts in case of rape or sexual assault, regardless of where they are stationed. And you know who voted against it?
Republicans.
Yeah, 30 Republicans. And I actually listened to the video they have here, and I can't say that the Republicans aren't, at the very least, right in their logic behind keeping government out of private contracts, right? Here's the deal. These private contractors are working for Halliburton.
Yeah.
Halliburton is contracted to you. You have every right to dictate a contract with them how you see fit. And if you want to if you desire, as Al Franken here apparently does, and the 70 other senators who weren't on. First of all, you understand that these 30 Republicans who voted against the bill, yeah, they're not all the Republicans. So
yeah,
you have a right in this case because you're contracting directly with them, and if part of the contract with Halliburton would have to say with the United States government is that every employee of Halliburton, if they wish to access the U.S. courts in cases of rape or sexual assaults, regardless of where they're stationed, it depends. And Halliburton decides, yes, it's okay to do that, right? Then that'd be what's the choice. Either the U.S. government will either get Halliburton to change that policy and allow them to do that, or Halliburton will no longer have access to the United States government until they do so.
True. And and speaking of the same subject you were talking about, I was just pulling up the Miles Foundation resource and contact information.
Yeah, was that who it came from? We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah. Most of their statistics, the big leading group on the subject of women in the military and sexual violence is the Miles Foundation based out of Connecticut.
All right.
And the Miles Foundation is a advocacy helpline group for women in the military or military spouses.
Yeah.
And most of the statistics that the news organizations were probably getting that from was the Miles Foundation, which when I talked to Amnesty International about getting help from my mom, they referred me to the Miles Foundation because it's the Miles Foundation who has done work with the Armed Services Committee in helping women in the military stand up for themselves to Congress and dealing with getting the military supervisors to actually do something about their rapists.
All right. Enough of that, really, more or less, because, like I said, I have more things to talk about. Looks like tensions are rising up in North Korea and South Korea again. People don't understand. I don't think people don't. Here I'm going assuming no one understands this. A lot of people don't realize that North Korea and South Korea are still fighting the Korean War. That the armor truce more or less ended it some 60 years ago, but because, especially when Bush was in power, he actually fought against the Natural Peace Treaty being devised.
Keynesians love war.
Yeah, what can you say? Speaking of Keynesians, we have a little surprise for you guys. We won't actually play it because we don't have time. And my computer doesn't have the kind of sound capacity, apparently, to record our voices and record something coming out of the computer. which is probably pretty good. Otherwise, you're just like really bad feedback.